MSNBC has decided to part ways with host Melissa Harris Perry after weeks of some tension. Now, the tension all began when there was apparently some miscommunication when it came to the way election coverage was going to be done on the network, and also a lot of disagreement as to what she could and could not cover on her show. Now, before we get into the details of all that, I just want to note that it seems like there are some things happening behind the scenes that we're unaware of. However, 2 days after an email that Melissa Harris Perry sent out became public, where she said she felt worthless to NBC News executives, and after 2 weeks of her show being preempted so that the network could cover other news, an MSNBC spokesman on Sunday confirmed that the network and Miss Harris Perry were parting ways. Okay. So she did tweet about it. She said, inviting diverse new voices to the table was a privilege, grateful for years of support and criticism. She had been on MSNBC with her show since 2012. Okay. So it all kind of started when they wanted to do election coverage. They want to dedicate the entire year to election coverage, which you will see on most cable outlets. And apparently, in one case, she was in Des Moines covering what was happening in Iowa with the primaries, and Ari Melber was hosting her show. And she was angry because she felt as though she was a host on her own show. Now,
a guest on her own show.
A guest on her own show. Look, and to be honest with you, during election season, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So Super Tuesday is going to happen tomorrow. We're not having a second hour, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that kind of sucks, but you understand that you got to kind of roll with the punches during an election season. There was another situation, though, where Melissa Harris Perry wanted to cover Beyonce's Super Bowl performance of the song Formation. And MSNBC decided, no, stick to election coverage. That's what we're focusing on. Well, she didn't listen, and she continued to do that video or that story on Beyonce. As she was doing it, they started showing footage of election stuff, right? The candidates.
Right, in the corner of the screen.
Right.
So they're obviously super annoyed at her for not doing the election stuff. So now this goes to a fundamental misunderstanding that Melissa Harris Perry had about MSNBC, and others have. Don't worry, I'm here to correct that. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, I do want to read you one of her quotes that was very, I'm sure the people at MSNBC found it inflammatory, right? But in the email that she sent, that was not supposed to be public in the beginning, that got leaked and that started to unravel this whole situation. She said, "I will not be used as a tool for their purposes. I am not a token mammy or little brown bobblehead. I'm not owned by Lack, who's now with NBC News and kind of driving the show here, Griffin, who's the president of MSNBC, or MSNBC. I love our show, and I want it back." So there's a lot more drama back and forth, but let me explain here what happened. So the Beyonce incident goes to the misunderstanding of how there is a self-selection process on television, on mainstream and establishment media, and how a lot of the hosts are not aware of it. So that's why I keep telling you, like, if you told Anderson Cooper, you told any of these guys, hey, you know that you're being used as a tool, he would be outraged. Mm-hmm. He said, no way. But what they don't understand is that you got selected because you follow orders. If you don't follow orders, this is what happens. It's happened over and over again, and they never believe it until it happens to them.
Right.
Right? So, like, MSNBC is actually the king of it. Back in a different administration of MSNBC, when they had different management, they did it to Phil Donahue, Ashley Banfield, and Jesse Ventura. Right as we were going up to the Iraq War, those three did not agree. They were removed from the air, right? Mm-hmm. In this era of MSNBC management under Phil Griffin, it happened to, me, okay, Martin Bashir, Ed Schultz. People forget it happened to Dylan Ratigan, too. And Dylan's a super nice guy, so I don't know how he would frame it. He's probably more cautious about it. But Dylan Ratigan was raging against the machine, mm-hmm. right? He spoke out against the establishment all the time, and all of a sudden, MSNBC decided, well, maybe not, right? What a wonderful coincidence for the 800th time in a row. And then Joy Reid moved it out of our time slot. Now Melissa Harris Perry. These are not all coincidences. You see, if you don't follow the rules and they give you a sign, it's never as clear as the one I got. Mine was super clear. They just sat me down and said, look, we're part of the establishment. You got to act like it. Washington's not happy with your tone. Now they know better. They give you dog whistles. Mm-hmm. For Melissa Harris Perry, they said, you really should cover the election. Now, her editorial judgment was correct. That Beyonce story was huge.
Yes.
We know, we covered it. We got millions of views. It wasn't just a matter of it being an important story, which it was, because pop culture influences so many things, and she challenged power, Beyonce did, with that move. But it was also the right move in terms of ratings. She was right, they were wrong, but that's not the point. The point is, you bow your head, and if you don't bow your head, you're gone. You're gone. And not only does that mean you're off the air, thank God, for their purposes, but it also sends a message to everyone else. When management tells you to do something, you do it, okay? And you don't worry about your editorial decisions. You thought it was your show? It's not your show.
Yeah, so I want to add on to that, because I think that there's not only a misunderstanding by people who end up hosting these shows on cable news outlets, I think there's a misunderstanding by people who watch these outlets, right? They look at these hosts and they think, well, some of them might be actual journalists. Some of them might have gone, to school and gotten an education in journalism, might have been out on the field doing real reporting. But there are some who haven't even delved into journalism whatsoever. They're actors and actresses, right? But at the same time, even if you are a hardcore journalist and you get this coveted role as a host on a cable news outlet, you don't get to make editorial decisions that matter, right? You are a puppet. And that's the thing that doesn't appeal to people like me, right? And so at some point in your journalistic career, should you choose to be one, you have to choose between money, where you are a puppet, right? You get to make millions of dollars, but you don't get to make decisions that matter. Or you get to work for digital or new media, where it might not be as profitable, but at least you get to cover the stories that matter, right? And you don't have to worry about someone breathing down your neck telling you, no, you can't cover that, you only get to do election coverage.
So there is a certain naivete, yes, some degree in the audience, as you point out, but also among the people who work there.
Yeah.
Again, I know I've been there, right? And everybody who's still in the building will furiously deny, no, what are you talking about? I can do anything I want. No, you can do any story you like as long as they don't object. Now, if they object, then you're going to have issues, right? And so, right now, for all the people who've left the building or been escorted out of the building, they finally get it. Oh, I see. So in Melissa Harris Perry's case, she's very smart. She's a professor at a university. There's a ton I agree with her on. There's also some substantial disagreements we have, right? And now let's notice that while MSNBC had a pro-Obama period, in fact, that was one of the reasons they asked me to leave, because I kept attacking Obama, it kept attacking the Democratic Party from the left, right? We weren't going to have that. Instead, they brought in Al Sharpton, who promised on the air to CBS 60 Minutes that he will never attack President Obama. In the Obama era of MSNBC, Al Sharpton promoted, Melissa Harris Perry promoted. So your show is useful, so we would like to have you here. Now they're in a new era, which is, no, we're not liberals anymore. We're not pro-Obama anymore. We're back to the establishment. Joe Scarborough is back to being king. By the way, you know they were always pro-establishment, not just because of the speech I got, but because Joe Scarborough was never in danger. Everyone was always in, hey, maybe this, maybe that. You can go too far left. But even on MSNBC, you couldn't go too far right?
Yep.
Joe Scarborough was always there, but now he's even greatly empowered, and he's clearly the new boss there. And he's like, yes, the establishment is back. And it doesn't mean right-wing. It's just that the establishment is right-wing. It is conservative. It does want to protect the establishment. So now, finally, will this new approach work? Good luck with that. Hear me now, quote me later, write it down in stone. This will be a ratings disaster. It will be a debacle of epic proportions. Could they have a slight bump up during the election season when everybody's having a big bump up during the election season? Sure. On any given night, can they do well if they're covering a debate or a town hall, which are handed to them, these giant media gifts handed to them, right? Yes, sure. Could some of their shows do okay in the meanwhile? Sure. But in the long run, and certainly after the elections, that collapse will be enormous, it'll be imminent, and it'll be unrecoverable. What they've done here is ended MSNBC. And I don't mean as a liberal network, that's now patently obvious. In their actual DNA, they were never liberals. They had a nice little run with some progressive shows, which they misunderstood to be pro-Obama shows. That's what they wanted. We've got a lot of contracts in front of the government. We've got a lot of mergers we want in front of the government. Be pro-government. Obama happens to be the government, then we're going to be pro-Obama, right? We're now done with that era. Now we're back to being right-wing and establishment. But it's not just because they're done as that progressive or even pro-Obama network. They're done as a network. You are not going to beat Fox News by being Fox News Light. You're not going to beat CNN, which is beating itself anyway, by being CNN Light. Being CNN Light is a miserable path to take if you're trying to get ratings.
Yeah.
Their ratings after the election will be so terrible that they will consider closing down the network and eventually will.
Damn.
They have killed MSNBC as a network. It is done. It's just a matter of time. They're just running out the clock from here on out.